My name is Ayla Monroe. I'm 27 years old, and it's 2024 here in Bristol, United Kingdom. For months, I believed Luca's late-night stories, the meetings, the deadlines, the promises. But the night I checked his GPS, I realized the truth wasn't about work. It was about betrayal. If you've ever trusted someone so much, you ignored the ache in your gut. Stay with me till the end. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that remind us how fragile trust really is. That Tuesday night, rain pressed against the windows and the kitchen clock sounded louder than it should. Luca's message blinked on my phone. Running late. Client issue. Don't wait up. I'd read words like that before, but something inside me whispered, not tonight. He once shown me how his car's GPS app worked, a small moment of playfulness I never thought I'd use. My hands shook as I opened it. The blue dot appeared, but it wasn't near his office. It was parked across the city, outside a small house I didn't recognize. For nearly an hour, the dot didn't move. Every minute stretched, pulling the truth closer. At 73 minutes, I stopped pretending. I drove through the drizzle, headlights slicing the mist. Bristol at night is quiet, every corner echoing secrets. When I turned onto that narrow street, his silver Audi sat beneath a street lamp like a confession. Warm light spilled from the windows of the house beside it. Inside, two shadows moved. One of them was unmistakably him, the other a woman. The sight hollowed me. Not fury, not yet just disbelief. I watched as he laughed, leaned close, brushed her arm. It looked easy for him. Natural. Rain hit the windscreen harder, drowning out everything but my heartbeat. I reversed, careful not to be seen, and drove home in silence. My mind kept replaying every late night, every gentle apology, every lie disguised as love. When my phone buzzed, I almost laughed. Luca, just leaving now. Sorry, love, long meeting, you okay? I locked the screen. The reflection staring back at me looked like someone who just learned the world wasn't what she thought. I didn't cry, I didn't even text back. I just sat there till the sky turned pale. Morning came like punishment, soft light exposing every detail of our house, our life, our lies. When Luca finally walked in, smiling as if nothing had changed, the scent of another woman's perfume clung to him. Morning, love, did you sleep okay? Yeah, I said quietly, fine. He didn't notice how flat my voice was. He never really listened. He only heard what he wanted. All day I moved through the motions, coffee, dishes, silence, but inside something steady was forming. I wasn't going to confront him with emotion. I wanted truth, clean and undeniable. That night I searched his accounts, emails, small things he thought I'd never notice. There were dinner charges from restaurants I'd never visited, petrol receipts from towns too far for work, even a hotel booking under his name. He built a second life right beside me. Friday came, and with it, his familiar lie. Client meeting, he said, adjusting his gray suit. Don't wait up. I won't, I replied. He left at 6:30. I followed 10 minutes later. The sky hung low, heavy with rain. I stayed 2 cars behind as he drove across the bridge, out of the city center. When he turned down that same quiet street, I already knew what I'd find. He parked. The woman opened the door. They kissed, not hurriedly, but with the ease of routine. My chest tightened. I wanted to hate him, but mostly I just wanted to understand how love could become this. I might have driven away then, but something unexpected happened. Another car pulled up behind me. A man stepped out, older, sharp suit, the kind of confidence that comes with money. He walked straight to the same door, and the woman greeted him like she knew him too. 2 men, 1 woman, 1 secret. I leaned forward, heart racing. Through the rain, I saw Luca hand the man a thick folder. Papers spilled slightly as he spoke. I couldn't hear everything, but a single line cut through the noise. She doesn't know anything, not yet. The words hit harder than the betrayal itself. He wasn't just cheating. He was hiding something bigger than us. The rain grew heavier, blurring the scene before me. I sat frozen, phone in hand, unsure whether to take a picture or just drive away. Then Luca looked around like he felt watched. His eyes swept the street. For a second, I thought they met mine through the rain-streaked glass. My breath stopped. He turned back, said something else I couldn't hear, and the car door shut. The other man drove off. Luca stood there in the rain, phone to his ear, face pale, worried. Not the look of a man enjoying an affair, but of someone caught in something darker. I sank lower in my seat, trembling. This wasn't over, it was only beginning. As I started my car, one thought repeated in my head, over and over. He said I didn't know anything. But he was wrong. Now I knew enough to destroy everything. And this time, I wasn't going to stay silent. The drive home that night felt endless. Bristol's streets blurred under the rain, lights streaking like memories I couldn't wipe away. Luca's words kept echoing in my head. She doesn't know anything. Not yet. He was wrong. I knew enough to never trust him again. When I reached home, I didn't turn on the lights. I sat in the dark, the car keys still in my hand, heartbeat loud in the quiet house. Every second that passed felt heavier. I wasn't sure what hurt more, that he'd lied about love, or that he was hiding something far more dangerous. The clock struck midnight. I opened my laptop again. This time, I wasn't searching for emotional closure. I was searching for proof. Emails, bank transfers, calendar entries. I went through them all. Most were clean, too clean. He deleted most of his recent conversations, but one thing caught my eye. A new folder on his desktop called Consulting Projects Private, password protected. Luca wasn't the type to lock his work. He once said trust was his love language. I almost laughed at the irony. The next morning, I watched him leave. Same routine, same easy smile. But now I saw the cracks. The way his eyes darted when I asked about his schedule, how his answers came rehearsed. Meeting in Bath, he said, buttoning his cufflinks. Big client. Right, I said softly. Be safe. He kissed my cheek and left. The door clicked shut like a lock behind my heart. As soon as his car turned the corner, I grabbed my coat and followed. I wasn't ready to confront him yet, not without understanding the whole picture. I just needed to know who that other man was. Traffic crawled through the city, but I kept distance. He didn't go toward Bath. Instead, he drove towards an industrial area near the river, old warehouses, mostly empty. He parked behind one with faded signage, Westbridge Logistics. I parked further down the road, pretending to check my phone. Luca stepped out, checked his surroundings, and entered the side door. My pulse jumped. Consulting projects, he'd said, but nothing about this place looked like a client meeting. I waited 10 minutes, then 20. My curiosity burned stronger than fear. I slipped out of my car, walked across the wet pavement, and stopped near a half-open window. The air smelled of metal and rain. Inside, I could hear voices. Luca's voice was tense. I can't keep doing this. She's going to find out. Then the older man, the same one from that night, replied sharply. She won't, unless you start making mistakes. You were paid to handle this quietly. I froze. Paid? Handle what? Luca sighed. You don't understand. She's starting to ask questions. Then distract her, the man said. Do whatever it takes. My breath caught. They were talking about me. A crash echoed deeper inside the building, metal clanging on concrete. I ducked instinctively, heart hammering. A shadow passed near the window, and I stepped back quickly into the rain. My shoes splashed in a puddle, the sound far too loud. For a moment I thought I'd been seen, but the door didn't open. I hurried back to my car, trembling so hard I could barely fit the keys into the ignition. My mind spun, paid to handle what? Why involve me? When I got home, the questions wouldn't stop circling. If Luca was being paid, who was paying him, and for what? Was it work or something illegal? That night I couldn't sleep. I sat in bed, laptop open, rain whispering against the windows. I typed the company name into Google. Westbridge Logistics, dissolved 2 years ago. My stomach twisted. The building was supposed to be abandoned. The next morning, Luca acted as if nothing had happened. He brought coffee to my bedside, smiled, asked if I wanted to go away for the weekend. We need a break, he said gently. Just you and me, somewhere quiet. He never suggested that before. Sure, I said, forcing a smile. Sounds nice. Inside, panic bloomed. Maybe he'd sensed I was suspicious. Maybe that was his way of keeping me close. When he left for work again, I copied every document I could from his computer onto a USB drive. It felt wrong, but I reminded myself, so did lying to someone you claim to love. Later that evening, while he was gone, I opened one of the copied files. It was an invoice, not from any client, but from a private address in Manchester. The description read simply, "Consultation fee transfer approved by HM Holdings." I searched the company. Nothing. No website, no trace. Just one small news article from months ago about a financial probe into data manipulation. Luca wasn't having an affair with just a woman. He was having an affair with danger itself. That weekend, we did go away to a small cottage near the coast. The sea air was cold and sharp, the sky a heavy gray. From the outside, it looked like a couple's getaway. Inside, it felt like an act. I watched him quietly. Every smile seemed forced, every touch calculated. He cooked dinner, poured wine, asked me if I trusted him. Of course, I lied. His eyes lingered on mine, searching for cracks. You! Tell me if something was wrong, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you? I replied softly. For a moment, he froze, then laughed it off. But I saw the flicker of panic behind his grin. That night, when he fell asleep, I stepped outside. The ocean roared in the distance. I called the number from the Manchester invoice, heart pounding. It rang twice before a man answered. HM Holdings, who's calling? I think there's been a mistake, I said, keeping my voice steady. I found your invoice for Luca Monroe. There was a pause. Who? Luca from Bristol, you. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, the wind cutting through my coat. Something was terribly wrong. When I came back inside, Luca was awake, sitting up, watching me. Couldn't sleep, he asked. His voice was too calm. Just needed air, I whispered. He nodded slowly, then smiled, the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. Good, he said softly. Tomorrow we'll talk about everything. And that's when I knew. He already suspected me. I didn't sleep at all that night. I lay beside him, staring into the dark, wondering what everything meant. By dawn, the tide had risen high, waves crashing against the rocks outside. Luca was still asleep, one hand resting near his phone on the nightstand. My pulse raced. I reached for it quietly, careful not to breathe too loud. I opened his messages, and there it was, a new thread, unknown number. We may have a problem, she knows. And just below it, a reply came in. Handle it tonight. My breath stopped. The phone slipped slightly in my shaking hand. Luca stirred beside me. I froze. His eyes opened slowly, and for the first time, I wasn't looking at the man I loved. I was looking at a stranger who might be dangerous. The drive back from that cottage felt like a blur. Rain tapped against the windscreen like tiny whispers, each drop echoing the same thought that had taken root in Ayla's mind. What was Luca hiding? He came home past midnight, drenched, smelling faintly of smoke and something metallic. He smiled as if nothing had happened, brushed his lips against her forehead, and muttered, "Long night at work again, love. Sorry." She nodded, because confronting him then would have meant admitting she already knew. And she wasn't ready for that, not yet. The next morning, Ayla watched him leave. His tone was casual, his steps steady, but she saw something new in him. That looseness in his shoulders was gone, replaced by the stiffness of someone who'd done something they couldn't undo. When the door clicked shut, she opened her laptop. GPS history, again, the same address. The cottage near Clifton Downs, but there was another entry, one she hadn't seen before. A second location, only a mile away. Her stomach twisted. Whatever he was doing, it wasn't just about cheating. She copied the address into her phone and waited until dusk. By the time she reached the second location, the world was painted in soft grays, streetlights flickering on, clouds thick and heavy. The address led to an old auto garage, rusted gates and all. It looked abandoned, but faint light glowed beneath the metal shutter. She parked a little way off and listened. Muffled voices, Luca among them. "Can't leave it there, mate, if someone finds it." "Relax," the other man cut him off. "No one's coming up that way anymore. It's been locked for years." Locked for years, Ayla's heartbeat stuttered. What was it? She stepped closer, her shoes crunching on gravel, trying to catch more. But a sudden clang from inside made her freeze. The light flickered out. Footsteps. She ran back to the car, breath shallow, waiting for the garage door to open, but it didn't. Just silence. Back home, she sat in the dark, the GPS map still open on her phone. 2 locations, 1 lie, and between them something Luca didn't want her to find. That night, he wrapped his arm around her in bed, whispering about weekend plans, as if their world hadn't cracked open. His hand was warm, his tone soft, but his eyes, when she glanced at him, were elsewhere. The next morning, he said he was heading to the office early. Ayla didn't even pretend to believe it anymore. She waited 15 minutes, then followed, not by car this time, but by foot, down the narrow lane that led away from their home. He wasn't going to work. He was heading back to the cottage. Ayla's heart thudded in her chest as she followed from a distance. Rain returned, light and steady, misting her coat and hair. When he reached the same narrow path through the woods, she slowed. He disappeared inside. Minutes passed. Then a car pulled up, not his. The same man from before stepped out, holding something wrapped in tarpaulin. Ayla crept closer, her breath shallow. Through the window, she saw Luca unroll the tarp. Inside, something glinted, not a weapon, not exactly, but metal. Rusted. Old. She couldn't see it clearly before Luca folded the tarp again and carried it deeper into the back room. Then she saw the floor, scratched and uneven, as if something heavy had been dragged across it. She stepped back, shaking. A twig snapped beneath her shoe. Luca's head snapped toward the window. Her body froze. He came out of the cottage, scanning the trees, his voice cutting through the damp air. "Who's there?" Ayla ducked behind a tree, her breath trapped in her throat. The rain grew louder, masking her panic. Seconds passed, then minutes. Finally, he went back inside. She waited until the sound of his footsteps faded, then backed away slowly, her pulse hammering. By the time she reached her car, her hands were trembling so badly she could barely hold the keys. She didn't drive home immediately. Instead, she pulled over by the roadside, staring out at the fields, trying to steady herself. If she went to the police, what would she even say? "I think my boyfriend's hiding something in a cottage." They ask for proof. She had none. But she had instincts, and every one of them screamed the same truth. Luca wasn't just lying. He was dangerous. That night, she pretended to sleep beside him again. His breathing was calm, steady. But once he drifted off, she slipped from the bed and quietly took his car keys from the side table. Her heart raced as she stepped into the rain, unlocking the car. She opened the GPS log again, scrolling past the usual routes. And there, a third location. Logged 2 days ago, out near the riverbank. Her throat went dry. The same pattern, the same distance. This wasn't random. She looked back at the house, then at the key in her hand. For a long time, she stood there, torn between fear and the need for truth. And then she drove. The roads were empty, the wipers squeaking across the glass. It was nearly midnight when she reached the riverbank, a narrow dirt track leading to an open clearing. The headlights washed over something half buried near the water. She stepped out, her torchlight cutting through the mist. A shovel, and beside it, a patch of freshly turned earth. Her breath hitched. Behind her, gravel crunched. Headlights. Luca's car. She froze as the light hit her face, and for a split second, their eyes met through the rain. He stepped out slowly, voice low, almost calm. "Ayla, what are you doing here?" Her torch shook in her hand. "I could ask you the same thing." He smiled, a cold, tired smile that didn't reach his eyes. "You shouldn't have come." And before she could answer, He reached into his coat pocket. The rain swallowed everything else, her breath, the sound of the river, and the quiet terror that this time, she wasn't sure she'd make it home. It was nearly midnight when Luca finally parked by the river. The headlights cut through the fog like knives, slicing the stillness apart. Ayla sat rigid in the passenger seat, her hands folded tight, her pulse unsteady. He hadn't said a word since they left the cottage. Just that same stiff silence, the kind that made her feel invisible. The water shimmered faintly in the moonlight, rippling under the faint hum of wind. Ayla's heart raced as she looked out across the misty bank. She remembered this spot. They'd come here once on a summer evening, laughing, feeding ducks. Now, it felt like the ghost of something that used to be safe. "Why are we here?" she asked, her voice barely holding together. Luca opened his door slowly, glancing around as if checking for someone. "You'll see," he muttered. She wanted to run. Every part of her screamed it, but curiosity and heartbreak kept her still. As they stepped out, the air bit at her skin. The cold was sharp, biting, almost warning. Luca walked ahead, a torchlight in hand. The beam cutting across the damp grass. Ayla followed, her trainers sinking into the soft mud, the smell of wet soil rising around her. He stopped near a cluster of trees, looking down at something half buried in the earth. Ayla's breath caught. It was a wooden crate, old, water-stained, covered in moss. Luca knelt, brushing the mud away. His hands were shaking slightly. "You remember Tom, don't you?" he said quietly, his tone suddenly strange. Ayla frowned. "Tom from your firm?" He didn't look up. "Yeah, he made a mistake, a big one." A shiver ran through her. "Luca, what's in that box?" He didn't answer. Instead, he pried the lid loose. It gave way with a dull crack. Ayla took a step forward, then froze. Inside were documents, wrapped in plastic. Files, USB drives, a few photos. She saw her name on one of the envelopes. Her stomach twisted. "What the hell is this?" Luca stood up slowly, his face pale. "It's what I've been protecting us from," he said. "Tom wanted to expose the company, and he involved you without knowing." "Me," her voice broke. "I don't even work for them." He stepped closer, almost pleading. "No, but your name's on the accounts. Remember when you signed those papers? The investment for the house." Ayla's mind reeled back. That night 2 years ago, Luca asking her to sign a few documents, calling it standard paperwork. She hadn't thought twice. Her throat went dry. "You used my name." Luca's silence said everything. The torchlight flickered across his face, revealing a man she no longer recognized. Not the partner she loved, just someone hiding behind calm words and half-truths. "So all those nights," she whispered, "you weren't working late, you were here burying this." Luca exhaled, his breath visible in the cold air. "I was fixing things, Ayla. I had to keep it hidden until I could move it safely." "Hidden from who?" Before he could answer, a rustle came from the trees. Both turned sharply. The light swung toward the sound, footsteps, slow, careful. Then a man's voice broke the stillness. "You shouldn't have come here, Luca." Ayla's chest tightened. It was the same man she'd seen outside the cottage. Luca cursed under his breath. "I told you I'd handle it," he hissed. The man stepped forward, face shadowed beneath his hood. "And yet you brought her." His gaze slid to Ayla, sharp and assessing. "That wasn't part of the deal." Luca moved instinctively between them. "Leave her out of this." The man chuckled quietly, darkly. "You made her part of it the moment you signed those papers." Ayla's knees weakened. The ground beneath her seemed to sway. She didn't understand everything, but one thing was clear. She was caught in something much bigger than betrayal. The wind picked up, scattering leaves around their feet. The man turned to Luca. "You've got until tomorrow. After that, it's out of my hands." He walked away into the fog, leaving silence so heavy it rang in her ears. Ayla stood frozen, her heart hammering. "Luca, what's going on?" He looked at her, eyes tired, almost defeated. "I was going to tell you," he said softly. "I just needed more time." She shook her head, tears blurring her vision. "Time for what? To lose me completely?" He reached for her hand, but she pulled back, stepping away. The river glinted behind her like a mirror of everything that was once clear, now dark, rippling, broken. For a long moment, neither spoke. The only sound was the water whispering secrets she no longer wanted to hear. Then Luca said, almost to himself, "It's too late now." Ayla's breath hitched. "What do you mean too late?" He turned towards the crate again, closing it, pressing the lid down firmly. "They know about you. You can't go home tonight." Her blood ran cold. "What?" He met her gaze, and there was fear in his eyes this time, not guilt. "You'll have to trust me." But she didn't, not anymore. She took one step back, then another. The mud clung to her shoes, the fog curling around her ankles like a warning. Her voice trembled. "You're not the man I thought you were." Luca's jaw tightened. "Maybe not, but I'm still the only one who can keep you safe." The wind howled through the trees, and in that haunting sound, Ayla realized something terrifying. She wasn't just heartbroken. She was trapped. And as Luca reached into his coat pocket for something she couldn't see, Ayla's instincts screamed one truth. Whatever he'd buried wasn't the only secret hiding here tonight. The cottage was silent when they returned. The kind of silence that doesn't feel peaceful, it feels watchful. Luca had gone straight to the kitchen, muttering something about making tea, but Ayla didn't move. She just stood in the hallway, her coat still on, her hands still shaking from what happened by the river. Her reflection in the window looked like a stranger. Pale, tense, eyes red from tears she hadn't realized had fallen. She whispered under her breath, "What have you done, Luca?" The kettle clicked on. His movements were steady, too steady. Every sound, from the clink of mugs to the soft scrape of a chair, made her heart thud faster. She couldn't stay, not another night. She slipped quietly into the living room. The crate wasn't there, he must have hidden it again. The place smelled faintly of damp wood and pine, a scent she used to love. Now it made her stomach twist. On the mantel, a photo of them from last Christmas caught her eye. Smiling, arms around each other. She almost laughed. How could love turn into fear this quickly? Her mind raced. The road to town was nearly 3 miles away. If she left now, she might make it before sunrise. She turned toward the stairs. Her phone was still upstairs, she'd need it. Every step creaked like a warning. Halfway up, she paused. The kitchen light flicked off. "Luca," she called softly, no answer. Her pulse spiked. She moved faster, almost running to the bedroom. Inside, the air felt colder, as if someone had opened a window. She grabbed her phone off the nightstand. No signal, again. She tried to open a text anyway, just in case the message would send once she found service. "If anything happens to me," she stopped, staring at the half-typed words. What was she even accusing him of? Her thumb hovered over the screen, then froze. A faint sound echoed from outside, gravel crunching. She went to the window. The moonlight spilled over the drive. A dark car was parked near the gate, not Luca's. Her breath hitched. 2 figures stood by the bonnet, talking quietly. One of them, she recognized the stance, the coat, the man from the river. The other, she didn't know, but the way they kept glancing toward the cottage made her chest tighten. She stepped back quickly, heart pounding. Then a hand touched her shoulder. She gasped and spun around. Luca stood there, eyes dark but calm. "What are you doing up here?" Her voice faltered. I was just getting my phone." He looked at it, then at her. "No signal is there." She shook her head, trying to keep her breathing even. He studied her for a moment, too long, then said, "We should get some sleep. We've got a long day tomorrow." "Doing what?" she asked, the words escaping before she could stop them. He didn't answer, just turned and walked out, the door clicking softly behind him. Ayla waited until his footsteps faded down the stairs, then moved quickly. She grabbed her coat, stuffed the phone in her pocket, and slipped out through the side window, the one that opened to the garden. The air hit her face like ice, and the smell of wet grass filled her lungs. The night was deep, the kind of darkness that swallows everything. She crouched low, moving along the hedges toward the gate. The car was still there, but the men were gone, probably down near the river again. She reached the gate, fumbling quietly with the latch, then stopped. Voices, coming closer. She froze behind the wall, barely breathing. "Luca, running out of time," one voice said. "If he doesn't deliver it by tomorrow, we move without him." And the woman. Collateral. Ayla's blood turned cold. She pressed a hand to her mouth, forcing herself not to gasp. The men's footsteps crunched past her. She waited until they disappeared down the path, then slipped out the gate and started running. The road stretched ahead like a shadow, the mist rising around her legs. Her lungs burned, her shoes slapped against the tarmac. All she could think was keep going, keep going. After what felt like miles, the glow of a petrol station appeared faintly ahead, a small light in the dark. She stumbled toward it, nearly crying from relief. But as she approached, a car engine roared behind her. She turned, headlights blinding her. Luca's car. Her heart dropped. The car slowed beside her, the window lowering. Luca leaned out, face pale, eyes wild. "Ayla, get in the car." She shook her head, stepping back. "No, I'm done listening to you." "You don't understand," he said, voice strained. "They'll hurt you if they find you. Please, I can explain." "Then explain," she shouted, the sound echoing across the empty road. He looked at her, then down, almost broken. "It's not about me. It's about what's inside that crate." She stared at him, chest heaving. "Then tell me what it is." But before he could answer, another pair of headlights appeared from the opposite direction. The same dark car. Ayla's stomach clenched. Luca turned sharply, panic flashing in his eyes. "Get in the car, now." She hesitated, just for a second, but it was enough. The other car stopped beside them, doors opening, men stepping out. Luca moved fast, opening her door. "Ayla, please." She didn't move. She couldn't. Her body was frozen between fear and disbelief. Then one of the men spoke. "Too late, Luca. You should have known better." Luca's hand tightened on her wrist. "Trust me just this once." And before she could pull away, he whispered something she could barely hear, something that made her heart jolt. "It's your father, Ayla. He's alive." The words hit her like thunder. Before she could even speak, the sound of engines roared again, and everything dissolved into chaos. Rain, cold, steady, endless. The car sped through the back roads, tires slicing through puddles. Ayla's hands trembled against the window, the reflection of Luca's face flickering beside her. "What did you say?" she whispered. "My father." Luca's jaw was tight. "He's alive." "That's impossible," she snapped. "He died when I was 16. He shook his head. "That's what you were told." The world blurred outside, trees, fences, shadows. Everything moved, but her thoughts froze. "Why would you lie about something like that?" "I didn't," he said. "He did." Silence filled the car, only the sound of rain hammering the roof. "Start talking," she said. Luca gripped the wheel. "Your father was part of the company before me. He found out they were laundering money through offshore accounts, using names of dead investors. He refused to play along. They threatened him. He disappeared, left you believing he was gone." Ayla's throat tightened. "And you knew?" "I met him 2 years ago. He reached out through an encrypted email. He needed help, someone inside the firm to keep his daughter safe. That's how I got involved." Her mind swirled, betrayal, disbelief, the weight of too many lies. "So the crate." "Proof," Luca said. "Files he gathered before he vanished. I was keeping them hidden until he resurfaced." Ayla pressed her palms together, trying to breathe. "You should have told me." He looked at her, eyes raw, exhausted. "Would you have believed me?" The car slowed near an old railway tunnel. The fog thickened, curling like smoke. Luca pulled over. "Why are we stopping?" "He told me to meet him here." Ayla's pulse thudded in her ears. "He's here." Luca nodded once. "Stay inside." But she didn't. The moment he stepped out, she followed. The tunnel loomed ahead, dark, dripping, echoing. The smell of rust and rain filled the air. "Dad," she called softly, her voice trembling. A shape moved in the shadows. A tall man stepped into the faint light, gray hair, same eyes she saw in old photos. Her knees weakened. "It can't be." He smiled faintly. "Ayla." Her world tilted, tears blurred her sight. "You're alive." He nodded, stepping closer. "I'm sorry for everything. I had to disappear. They would have used you to get to me." She wanted to run to him, but something in his face stopped her. The same guilt she'd seen in Luca's. "You were working together," she said quietly. He looked at Luca, then back at her. "Yes, but not for long. They found us. The files, they know you have them now." A distant rumble echoed. Engines. Luca turned sharply. "We've got to go." Her father grabbed his arm. "No, if they catch you, they'll kill her. Take the drive and leave." Luca shook his head. "I'm not leaving her." The sound grew louder. Lights flickered at the end of the tunnel. Her father pressed a small USB drive into her hand. "Run, Ayla. Whatever happens, don't let this fall into their hands. It's everything, the names, the accounts, the truth." Her breath caught. "Come with us." He smiled sadly. "It's too late for me." Then's gunfire. Not loud, but sharp enough to echo like thunder. Luca grabbed her, dragging her back toward the car. Her father's voice shouted behind them, "Go!" then vanished into the roar. Ayla stumbled, tears cutting through the rain on her face. The USB burned cold in her palm. Luca shoved her into the car. The tires screeched, the tunnel shrinking behind them. She looked back once, smoke, and light swallowing the man she thought she'd lost years ago. Luca drove in silence, knuckles white on the wheel. When she finally found her voice, it was barely a whisper. "He died protecting the truth." Luca nodded, eyes fixed on the road. "Now it's on you to finish it." The USB glimmered faintly in her hand. Small, fragile, dangerous. Outside, the rain turned heavier, erasing their trail, as if the night itself wanted the secret buried again. But Ayla knew one thing. She wouldn't run anymore. Next time, she'd be the one to uncover every lie they'd ever told. The night was silent, too silent, the kind that hums with secrets. I sat on the cold wooden floor of the cottage, Luca's laptop glowing faint blue against my trembling hands. My pulse thudded in my ears as I opened the folder marked FM, Legacy. Inside were files, dozens of them, dates, names, codes. One, however, stood out. "For Ayla, only if I'm gone." My throat tightened. I hesitated, my cursor hovering over it before I clicked. A video opened. My father's face appeared older, tired, and filled with a kind of knowing sadness I had never noticed before. "Ayla," he said softly, "if you're watching this, then I couldn't protect you the way I wanted to. There are things about my company, about the people I trusted, things Luca knows. I needed him close to you to keep you safe, but not everything went as planned." I froze, my breath caught. "Luca, protect me." The screen flickered. "The man you love, he's not your enemy, but he's not innocent either. He's trapped in the same lie I was. You'll understand soon. Trust no one until you find the river file." Then static, the screen went black. I stared at the laptop, shaking. My father's words tangled inside my mind. "Luca, not my enemy, but why hide all this? Why lie to me?" The floor creaked behind me. I turned sharply. Luca stood at the doorway, his face shadowed, eyes unreadable. "Couldn't sleep." His voice was calm, but there was an edge, the kind that hides too much. "I just needed air," I said, forcing a weak smile, closing the laptop slowly. He walked closer, his gaze flickering to the screen before back to me. "You've been looking through my things, haven't you?" Silence, then his jaw clenched. "Ayla, you shouldn't have seen that." My heart raced. "You've been lying to me for months, Luca. My father, he left that message for me, not you." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "And yet, here you are, still alive because of me." That stopped me cold. "What do you mean?" I whispered. He stepped closer, voice low. "Your father's death wasn't an accident. Someone been watching you since his company collapsed. I was meant to keep them away." That's why I was working late, not cheating, not lying, protecting you. My world tilted. Then why hide it? Why not tell me? Because, he said quietly, the less you knew, the safer you were. And now you've opened the one thing that puts you in danger again. The laptop beeped. A message appeared on screen. Access DATACTD. Trace initiated. Luca's eyes widened. No, what did you do? I just opened a file. I cried. He grabbed my wrist. They'll find us now. We have to go now. I pulled away. Who are they, Luca? Before he could answer, headlights flashed through the window. Two shadows moved outside. Luca cursed under his breath, pulling me behind the kitchen counter. Don't move, he whispered. And whatever happens, don't run towards the river. The river, my father's message echoed. Find the river file. But before I could speak, the front door rattled, then burst open. Men in dark jackets stormed in. Luca pushed me behind the stairs, drawing something from his coat, not a weapon, but a small black drive. He shoved it into my hand. Take it, run when I say. Luca. Please, Ayla, trust me one last time. The next second, the lights went out. Shouts, footsteps, chaos. Luca lunged toward the men as I slipped through the back door, the cold air biting my face. Rain poured as I sprinted into the woods. The USB drive burned in my hand. Behind me, I heard a single scream, sharp, short, then silence. I stopped. My chest ached. My heart refused to believe what that silence meant. Lightning flashed. The river shimmered ahead, wide, endless, and black like ink. I fell to my knees, soaked and shaking, staring at the drive. My father's voice echoed in my mind. Trust no one until you find the river file. The USB had one engraving, tiny, almost invisible, RVR. Tears mixed with rain. I whispered into the storm, Dad, what did you leave me in the middle of? And somewhere beyond the riverbank, a figure moved, watching, waiting. I didn't sleep that night. The cottage felt colder, heavier, as if the walls themselves knew what I was about to uncover. The river file blinked on my laptop screen, encrypted, locked behind layers of code my father must have created years ago. I whispered, Come on, Dad, what were you hiding? For hours, I followed strings of data until one folder opened River Truth, MP4. My hands trembled as I clicked it. The video flickered to life. My father's face appeared older, weary, his eyes carrying the weight of fear and love. Ayla, if you're watching this, it means they found me. And if they found me, Luca's next. I froze, the world seemed to tilt. Luca. He wasn't supposed to be part of this, my father continued. But when he discovered what my company was doing, how they were using environmental projects as a cover for illegal dumping, he tried to protect you. They threatened him, and he agreed to keep quiet, to keep you safe. My heart cracked open. Luca hadn't betrayed me, he'd been protecting me. But then, why the lies? Why the secrecy? The video glitched, static covering my father's next words, then cleared. If anything happens, look for the river ledger. It holds proof of everything, names, money, locations. But trust no one, Ayla, especially not the man pretending to help you. The screen froze, my pulse raced. Not the man pretending to help me. Then, who had Luca been meeting? The sound of a car outside jolted me. Headlights swept across the window. My breath hitched. I shut the laptop, killed the lights, and moved to the corner, peeking through the curtain. Luca's car wasn't alone. Another black vehicle stood beside it. Two silhouettes stepped out, one tall, one stocky. They spoke in low voices, the taller one holding a phone, scanning the windows with a small flashlight. They were looking for me. My heart pounded as I backed away. Every instinct screamed run. But where? The river, the woods. My father's words echoed in my head, the river ledger. I grabbed the laptop, shoved it into my bag, and slipped out the back door. The cold air cut through me like glass. The moonlight shimmered on the path that led down to the riverbank. Branches cracked behind me. I ducked low, pressing myself against a tree. Luca's voice, faint but unmistakable, drifted through the air. She's gone. Check the woods, she couldn't have gone far. He sounded desperate, not angry, not cruel, desperate. I wanted to believe he was still on my side, but trust had become poison. I crept along the path until I reached the old wooden dock. The river glistened under the moon. My father used to bring me here when I was little. We'd feed the swans and talk about dreams. Now, it felt like the end of one. The water lapped gently at the shore. And then, something caught my eye. A small metal box wedged beneath the dock, half submerged in mud. My heart skipped, the river ledger. I dropped to my knees, yanking it free. The latch was rusted, but with a sharp tug it opened. Inside, wrapped in waterproof cloth, were old files, memory cards, and one note in my father's handwriting. If you found this, the truth is yours now, but they will come for it and for you. Footsteps echoed behind me. I spun around. Luca stood there, his face pale, soaked from rain, eyes filled with something I couldn't read, fear or guilt, maybe both. "Ayla, please," he said quietly. "You don't understand. They're using me too." I stepped back, clutching the box. "You lied to me for months. You let me think." "Because if you'd known, they'd have killed you," he interrupted, his voice breaking. "Your father tried to expose them. I was meant to make sure you never found out." The words hit like ice. "So what now? You hand me over." He shook his head, eyes darting toward the woods. "No, but they're close. We've got minutes, maybe less." Behind him, the tall figure appeared, the same one I'd seen near the car. He raised a flashlight, its beams slicing through the fog. Luca turned. "Run." I didn't move. I couldn't. The river, the file, the fear, everything blurred together. Then Luca grabbed my arm and pushed me toward the trees. "Go, Ayla, I'll hold them off." I stumbled through the undergrowth, the box heavy in my hands. Behind me, I heard shouting, the crunch of boots, and then silence. Just silence. I kept running until the cottage lights disappeared completely. My lungs burned, my clothes soaked through, my mind spiraling. Who were they? Why did my father trust Luca enough to warn him, yet tell me not to trust the man pretending to help me? Was Luca saving me, or deceiving me one last time? At the edge of the forest, I stopped. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A message flashed on the screen, an unknown number. "You've got something that doesn't belong to you." I froze. Another message came through seconds later. "Your father thought he could hide the truth. He was wrong, so are you." And then, a final line that made my blood run cold. "Check the ledger again. You'll see who really killed him." My hands shook as I looked down at the metal box. The truth wasn't over, it was just beginning. And somewhere out there, someone was watching, waiting for me to open it. The forest was quiet when I finally stopped running. The box felt heavier than before, not in weight, but in what it carried. Truth, secrets, my father's voice still echoing somewhere inside my mind. I sat on a fallen branch, the moonlight bleeding through the trees, and opened the ledger. Inside were pages marked with numbers, names, and transfers. Companies I didn't recognize, offshore accounts, coded initials. But one name stood out. Monroe Industries. My father's company. And next to it, L. Carver. Luca. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The man who claimed to protect me, who said he was forced to lie, had his name tied directly to the payments. Every line connected back to him. My hands trembled. "No, it can't be you." A sound cut through the woods, a twig snapping, soft footsteps. I turned sharply. Nothing, just the wind moving through the leaves. I looked back at the ledger, scanning the last few entries. Final transfer, Project Riverfall, confirmed by L. Carver. Status, executed. My heart dropped. Executed. That wasn't a word used for business. It meant something darker, something final. I scrolled through the files on one of the memory cards. A folder titled RIVERFALL closure appeared. Inside were images, an industrial site, barrels marked toxic waste, and a body covered in a white sheet. I zoomed in. The tag on the sheet read, Dr. Samuel Monroe. My father. Tears blurred the screen. No, you were supposed to be alive, you said. My voice cracked. I wanted to scream, but the silence of the night swallowed everything. Behind me, a whisper. Ayla. I froze. The voice was quiet, strained Luca's. I turned slowly. He stood a few meters away, his face pale, eyes hollow. The same man I once trusted with every part of me. You shouldn't have opened it, he said softly. My throat tightened. You killed him. No, he said quickly. I tried to save him, but your father, he wouldn't listen. He was going to expose everyone, the investors, the government partners. They couldn't risk it. They ordered his silence. I stepped back, and you helped them. I didn't have a choice. His voice cracked. They had you, Ayla. They threatened to make you disappear. I did what I had to keep you safe. Safe, that word again. It burned now meaningless, hollow. I held up the ledger. This says otherwise. Every payment, every signature, you signed them all. He closed his eyes. Because I was the one laundering the evidence. Your father asked me to. He wanted me inside their system. But when he died, they turned it against me. I became their proof, their scapegoat. The forest was so still, I could hear the river in the distance. My heart warred between belief and disbelief. His face looked genuine, pained, regretful. But then, so had every lie before this. Why didn't you tell me? I whispered. Because if I did, they'd come for you sooner. You were safer believing I was the enemy. A car engine roared in the distance, headlights cutting through the fog. Luca's eyes darted toward it. They've found us. We don't have time. I gripped the box tighter. Then go. I'll face them myself. He shook his head. You don't understand the one leading them. It's not who you think. What do you mean? Luca hesitated, his voice low. It's your uncle, Ayla. Your father's brother, Richard. He was the one funding Riverfall. When your father threatened to expose him, Richard made it look like an accident. He's been hunting you because you're the last loose end. The world tilted again. My uncle. The man who'd helped raise me after Dad's death. The man who'd sent me birthday cards, called me kiddo. No, I whispered. That's not true. He's coming here. He won't stop until he has that ledger. The sound of the approaching vehicle grew louder. Headlights flickered through the trees. Luca stepped closer. We need to move now. But something inside me hardened. I'd spent months trapped in fear, running, doubting, breaking. Not anymore. I met his eyes. No more running. He wants the truth buried. I'll bring it to light. Luca looked at me for a long second, then nodded. Then you'll need proof he can't erase. He reached into his jacket, pulling out a small USB drive. Your father's final message, the one you saw, was only half. This has the rest. I stared at it. Why didn't you give it to me before? Because I needed to be sure you were ready to see it. The headlights stopped just beyond the trees. Doors slammed. Voices, men's voices, carried through the dark. Luca pressed the USB into my hand. Go north along the river. There's an old signal tower. Send it from there. Once it's out, they can't stop it. I hesitated. What about you? He smiled faintly, sad, tired. I'll keep them busy. Before I could answer, he turned toward the lights. Luca. But he was already gone, swallowed by the shadows. I looked down at the USB in my hand, small, cold, and pulsing with the truth that could destroy everything. Behind me, voices grew louder, closer, the crunch of boots. A flashlight beam swept past. I slipped into the darkness, clutching the drive and the ledger. My father's secrets, Luca's sacrifice, Richard's betrayal, all tangled into one impossible truth. And as I ran toward the river's bend, the thought hit me like lightning. Maybe revenge wasn't about making them pay. Maybe it was about making the truth seen. Still, the night wasn't done. Somewhere behind me, a single gunshot echoed through the trees. And I knew, whatever happened next, Luca wouldn't be coming back. The storm had passed, but the silence it left behind was louder than thunder. Ayla clutched the USB in her hand, her fingers trembling as she crossed the cracked road leading to the old signal tower. Every step echoed with the weight of unfinished truth, her father's voice, her mother's sacrifice, and the lives destroyed by the empire he once built. Lightning flashed in the distance, illuminating the rusted gates of the tower. She paused. Someone had been here recently, fresh tire marks cut through the mud. "Too late," she whispered. Still, she pushed the gate open, metal shrieking like a warning. Inside, the air smelled of dust and betrayal. She walked toward the central console, a massive steel terminal covered in tangled wires and flickering monitors. She inserted the USB. A low hum filled the room. Access granted. Encryption key via RFID. Then a folder appeared. Ayla final message. Her breath hitched. The file opened automatically. Her father's face appeared on the screen, older, tired, yet peaceful. He began to speak. "Ayla, if you're seeing this, then you've already done what I couldn't. You've broken free. The company you think I served, I built it for you. But power, it corrupted everything I loved, including me. The truth isn't in the documents or the servers. It's in the people who were silenced. I hid something they'd kill to find." He looked away for a moment, as if speaking to ghosts. "Behind this tower, beneath the foundation, you'll find a black safe. Inside is the original recording, the day the city's experiment went wrong. The day your mother died trying to save them." Ayla's heart sank. Her mother wasn't just a victim, she had been the whistleblower. Suddenly, footsteps echoed outside the room. A voice, cold and familiar, cut through the silence. "Drop the USB, Ayla." She turned. It was Dr. Mercer, her father's former partner, the man who turned their dream of renewal into a machine of control. His gun was steady, his eyes empty. "You were supposed to stay out of this," he said. "You had a good life, why ruin it?" Ayla held her ground. "Because I finally learned the truth. You killed her, and you made my father live with it." Mercer smiled. "Your father was weak, I just finished what he couldn't." He pulled the trigger, but the gun jammed. Ayla lunged, knocking it from his hand. The fight was brutal, a desperate blur of fists, metal, and fear. They crashed into the terminal, sparks flying. The USB was still plugged in, the file uploading to the global network. Mercer saw it, his expression twisted with panic. "No, you don't know what you're releasing." Ayla's voice broke through the chaos. "I know exactly what I'm doing." She slammed the emergency switch. The tower lights flared, data surged through the system. Across the city, screens began flashing. Her father's confession, the truth about the experiments, the names of those who suffered. The world was finally seeing it. Mercer screamed as he tried to stop it, but Ayla pushed him back one final strike. He fell, the room collapsing around them. As the fire spread, Ayla crawled toward the console and pulled out the USB. The upload was complete. Transfer successful. Truth RLESCD. She stumbled outside as dawn began to rise. The first light of morning touched the horizon, washing the ruins in soft gold. For the first time in years, Ayla breathed freely. The lies were gone. The silence was broken. She looked back at the tower, her father's final legacy, and whispered, "Rest now, I finished what you started." A single tear rolled down her cheek, catching the sunlight like a shard of memory. And then she walked away, leaving the ashes behind. The news spread like wildfire. Not just in Bristol, across cities she'd never seen. Her father's files, her recordings, the truth about the company, the deaths, the lies. Everything was out now. And yet, peace never came. People called her brave. Some called her a liar. And in the middle of it all, Ayla sat in her flat, silent, exhausted, and strangely hollow. The world finally knew. But the weight hadn't lifted. Luca was gone. The tower had burned. And her father's voice still echoed in her head. When you choose truth, you choose war. Outside, protesters filled the streets. Reporters camped near her door. Her inbox was a battlefield, support messages mixed with threats. Truth had a price, and she was paying it. One evening, As the rain washed over Bristol, she turned on the TV. Her father's company's name flashed across the screen. Executives arrested. Assets frozen. Headlines calling her the whistleblower daughter. She muted the sound. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like silence after a scream. Then a letter arrived. No stamp, no return address. Just her name, handwritten. Inside, a single sentence. You released half the truth. Her heart stopped. There was also a USB drive. Smaller than the one her father had left. Colder. She hesitated for hours. Finally, she slid it into her laptop. A single file appeared. RVRLGTII. It was encrypted. Same code her father used. Same sequence, but deeper. She typed the phrase he'd once whispered when she was a child. Truth doesn't end. The file opened. Inside, photographs. Dozens. Dates. Coordinates. And at the bottom, a single video. She pressed play. Her father appeared on screen, older than she remembered. His face tired, eyes soft. If you're watching this, it means you survived the first half. But Ayla, the river never ends. What I exposed was only the surface. There's a network, larger than I ever reached. They will come for you, not because you told the truth, but because you know where it ends. He leaned closer. Find the man in the photograph. He was my ally once before he vanished. His name is Callum Hayes. You'll find him where the river bends. The screen went black. Ayla froze. Her pulse raced. The same river, the one behind the cottage. The same bend where she'd last seen Luca. She grabbed her coat, phone, and the small flash drive. She didn't even lock the door. The rain was heavy, cold, and unrelenting as she reached the riverside path. Everything smelled like memory, soil, smoke, and betrayal. At the bend, she saw a small lantern flicker beneath an old bridge. A man stood there, hooded, hands deep in his pockets. When he looked up, she recognized him. Callum Hayes. Her father's old friend. The one Luca had mentioned once, just before things started falling apart. Ayla Monroe, he said softly, you were never supposed to open that second file. Then why did my father make it for me? She asked, trembling. He looked past her, at the dark water. Because he trusted you to finish what he couldn't. Ayla's throat tightened. Finish what? Callum's voice was quiet. The truth about the Riverlight project wasn't just corruption. It was a test. They built something beneath the city, something your father helped design. He tried to destroy it before they could use it. She shook her head. Use what? He stepped closer. The network, it's not about data, Ayla. It's about control. Lightning cracked across the sky. In that moment, she realized the story wasn't over. Her father's warning, Luca's lies, the tower, everything led here. The river wasn't just a place. It was the beginning of something new. Callum handed her a small key. Tomorrow, 7 a.m., the old archives under the railway. Bring the drive. Don't tell anyone you found me. And just like that, he disappeared into the rain. Ayla stood there, drenched, shaking, staring at the key in her hand. She looked down at the river, dark, endless, moving quietly toward the sea. And for the first time since it all began, she felt it not fear, not grief, but resolve. Her father had started this. She would finish it. The underground archive was colder than Ayla expected. Stone walls, breathing out the chill of years gone by. Her torchlight skimmed over rusted cabinets, half-burned files, and faded maps taped to the walls. Every echo of her footsteps felt like a heartbeat, slow, deliberate, waiting. The coordinates her father had left led her here, beneath an abandoned railway in the outskirts of Bath, a place that didn't exist on any modern map. Ayla's hand trembled as she held the USB, the same one her father had encrypted years ago, the river file. She found an old console still wired to a power source, flickering like an old ghost waking up. She inserted the drive. The screen hummed, lines of code unfolded, and then a single folder appeared. For Ayla, when you're ready. Her throat tightened. I'm ready, Dad, she whispered. The file opened to a video feed. Static first, then her father's face, older, softer than she remembered. If you're watching this, he said, then they've already found you. But listen, the river never ends, Ayla. It flows through truth, and truth is never buried. What I built wasn't a weapon. It was protection for you. Her tears blurred the screen. He continued, voice fragile but certain. Luca wasn't your enemy. He was the one I trusted to keep you safe when I couldn't. What you saw, the files, the surveillance, they were all part of shielding you from the people who wanted this technology. You were never supposed to find it this way. Ayla pressed her palm to the monitor. Then why hide everything from me? As if the screen could answer, another image loaded, a document titled The River Network. It wasn't a weapon at all. It was a communication system, capable of rerouting signals globally, keeping whistleblowers anonymous, governments accountable. Her father had created something that could make corruption visible, and someone had killed to bury it. She scrolled further. Luca's name appeared under field operations. And below that, a single message from him. If you made it here, it means I kept my promise. Don't hate me for the lies. They were the only way to keep you alive. Her breath hitched. In that moment, all the anger, all the sleepless nights replayed, but now through a new lens. He hadn't betrayed her. He'd carried her father's secret, even when it tore them apart. A faint noise pulled her from thought, a faint click behind her. A shadow moved. Who's there? Ayla turned sharply, torchlight catching on movement. For a split second, she thought it was Luca, but it was. A man in a dark coat stepped into the light, holding a device, one of the old encryption keys from her father's lab. You shouldn't have opened that file, he said quietly. You've just restarted the river. Her heart pounded. Who are you? He smiled faintly, like someone who'd been waiting for this moment. Your father's last ally, he said, and now yours. But once you upload that data, there's no turning back. Everyone, including the people hunting you, will know the truth. Ayla looked at the screen. The upload prompt blinked. Activate the river network. Her father's words echoed in her head. The river never ends. Her hand hovered over the key. What happens if I say yes? You change everything, the man said, and you'll never be able to disappear again. For a long second, all she could hear was the hum of the old machine and the faint drip of water in the distance, like a clock counting down to choice. She took a deep breath, then let them see. Her finger pressed enter. The lights around her flickered, then flared data streams rippling through old cables like veins lighting up. The screen filled with files, names, government seals, financial links, corruption, deals, lies all going live to the world. Ayla stepped back, watching the current spread. And in that glow, for the first time, she felt free. When the man spoke again, his tone had softened. You've done what your father couldn't. I didn't do it for him, Ayla said quietly. I did it because the truth deserves to breathe. He nodded once, then vanished back into the dark, leaving only the sound of rain echoing through the tunnel. Ayla stood alone, the last of the flickering light reflecting in her eyes. She thought of Luca, of how much she'd misunderstood, of the nights she'd cursed his silence. Maybe one day she'd forgive him properly. Outside, dawn began to break. The world above was waking to chaos, news feeds exploding with files and revelations. But Ayla didn't stay to watch. She walked up the narrow stairway, feeling the cold air hit her face. The city skyline shimmered in the distance, fragile, uncertain, but new. At the top of the hill, she stopped and looked back once more at the river winding through the valley. She finally understood what her father meant. The river never ends, because truth never dies. A faint vibration buzzed in her pocket, a new message. Unknown number. The world saw, but they're coming for you, Ayla, keep moving. She looked out over the city, a small smile forming. "Let them come," she whispered. "This time I'm ready." The wind carried her words into the distance, blending with the sound of the river, endless, alive, and unstoppable.